Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Welcome to the GRE Success Talks. Today, we're diving into an inspiring story of grit, resilience, and unwavering belief in one's strengths. This is the journey of an Indian GRE student who refused to give up, even after 4 unsuccessful attempts. Hi, everybody. I'm Selvi, and today we're speaking with Vikram, a bright and determined student from India who finally achieved his dream GRE score on his 5th attempt. So let's hear his incredible story. And before we start, guys, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We'll have more of these GRE Success Talks coming up soon. So stay tuned, subscribe to our channel, like this video for it to reach more students. And yeah, before we jump into the juicy stuff, Vikram, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us why you decided to take the GRE?
Right. Thanks for that, Shelby. I think I'll try to keep this short, but hi, everyone. My name is Vikram Aditya. I'm based in New Delhi, India. And I pursued my undergraduate in economics from a college called Shahid Bhagat Singh. It's in Delhi University. And yeah, right after, over the past 2 years, I've been working at Invest India, which is the National Investment Promotion Agency, housed under the Government of India. We work to enable companies that want to enter or expand in India. And the primary mandate for us has been to attract foreign direct investment in the country. But hopping on to GRE, I think business school was something that I realized pretty early on, something that is a logical step in my career. And I mean, of course, a huge enabler for any aspirant, any B school aspirant is the GRE, in particular the GRE or the GMAT. And while I did have an understanding of both the tests, and I did give one GMAT attempt, I realized pretty early on that that was not entirely suited to my aptitude. And that's when I really started learning a bit more about the GRE, about the structure of the exam, spoke to a couple of students who had given it. And in fact, I started coaching pretty early on. And yeah, throughout the process, I realized that this was an exam that was more better suited to my aptitude. And that's where I started my journey.
Awesome. And when did you start your journey? This was like how many years ago?
So I think one of the things that worked out for me was that I started on a bit early. So right after I completed my undergraduate studies, and I think during the very first year of my job, this was 2023. So I'd say April 2023 was when I had just started my GRE prep. And yeah, I think that marked the culmination of my journey.
Understood. As far as I read about your journey, you did fail 4 times, correct? And then the 5th attempt was the hurrah moment. So in April 2023, you started your GRE attempt. Let's discuss a little bit about that, especially your first 2 to 3 attempts. So what exactly was going wrong in your preparation during that time?
Right. So I think just reflecting retrospectively, in hindsight, I think there was a lot of structural and fundamental problems with how I approached prep in the beginning. I relied on a local coaching center to start up with my course. And while, of course, the style of teaching did work out for a few, I don't think it was particularly suited towards the kind of help I needed. And particularly, I think an important fact, especially regarding quant, was that since my childhood, I have been someone who has traditionally not been good at quants. I struggled with algebra pretty early on. And I mean, of course, even when I entered college, we were a part of the COVID batch. So we had virtual classes for a majority portion of my college life. And that meant that I was effectively out of academia for about 5 years. And not having maths as an elective or as a subject, even during my higher school education in 11th and 12th grade.
Yeah.
That also meant that I had stayed out of the subject for a much longer while. And yeah, I think structurally, when I went in, particularly with my first attempt, I saw that while I was trying to get a good grasp of theory, I was not really understanding the fundamentals. And effectively, I did not also give enough mocks, and I just went really unprepared with my first attempt. It was something pretty hasty because I was targeting a few deadlines at that time. And yeah, I think the first attempt with the longer GRE at that time was a very humbling reality, in that it helped me realize that okay, there are a lot of things that I was doing fundamentally wrong with my prep, especially regarding quant. And even the verbal was never really a problem for me. I have been someone who has been usually good in my verbal ability, and even though traditional verbal ability does not always translate to what it means in the exam, I think I found myself mostly comfortable with that section. But that is a bit about my first attempt. Happy to explore what happened post as well.
Yeah, for sure. And how many months did you take to prepare? Well, I mean, it was not really a preparation of sorts, but how many months did it take you to be like, okay, I feel like I'm ready. Let's take the first attempt.
Right. So I think the first attempt was roughly about 3.5 months. And I think it was also in line with the timelines that that particular coaching center had set in place, and I was only following the curriculum that they had prescribed, which in hindsight was probably not the best idea. And I think I'll also emphasize this later on as our conversation progresses. But one thing that I've realized about test prep is that it is very personal and it has to be very tailored. And that stems from the fact that you have to really understand and analyze what is really going wrong in your prep. What is it particularly that is acting as a pitfall or a bottleneck or something that you're not able to really grasp. So I think it requires a lot of introspection. And I think had I realized that earlier on, I think I wouldn't have had to give in so many attempts. But no, I think it was 3.5 months for the first attempt. And the second and third were, in fact, a bit more in rapid succession. It was, I think, a gap of 2 months between each of those two attempts. And I think while I was able to bring structural improvements to my prep, particularly in terms of looking at official resources, really trying to understand more theory when it came to quant, and trying to do timed question sets. I think the time interval was just a bit too less, and there were again other things that I could have done, that I could have optimized better between those two attempts, which would have helped me.
I'm just going to bring back that slide again. So I'm going through the dates when you took this. So you said September, you took your first attempt. Your score, like percentile 86, 34. And so like your quant was like a struggle on its own. Like a huge struggle. Analytical writing and verbal was somewhat nice. Then in November, your verbal dipped a little bit, your quant increased, and your analytical went down. Then in January, your verbal went lower, but not too much. Your quant stayed the same, and your analytical even reduced further. So I can see like the preparation was like, I feel like all over the place. Correct? Yeah. And what were you feeling during that time? Like, what was going in your head? Like, because attempting this test like 3 times is already mentally draining. But how was that like for you? How do you keep your hopes up even after that?
No, absolutely. I think it was it was tough, definitely. And of course, managing prep alongside full-time job meant that I was staying up late nights, and there was a lot of efforts that were going into it. And at a point of time when you're so deep into your prep journey, where you're 2 or 3 attempts in, you kind of start developing tunnel vision. You start associating your self-worth with a standardized test. And while a lot of people we don't really realize in the process that these scores are never reflective of your self-worth or what you're really capable of. And sometimes people are just not good test takers. I myself identify as abhorrent to test taker, but no, at the time I think it was definitely a lot of anxiety, a lot of self doubt, a lot of questioning, and I think my mental health really took a tank at that point of time. And while in my second attempt, I saw that there was a small surge in my score. So I was really hopeful going into the third attempt that, okay, I went from 314 to a 317. Maybe the next one is a 320 or a 323. But um, back in, I think, Jan 24, when I was giving my third attempt, and in fact, my score reduced by 1 point. At that time, it was just like, oh, I have hit rock bottom. And it was also coinciding with this early application that I was doing for a school. And um, unfortunately, that did not ended up working out as well, primarily because the score was not up to the benchmarks that the school had set. And that coupled with the rejection, I think it really, yeah, I
Felt
think,
like
yeah, I felt like rock bottom. And I decided to take a concerted break from the GRE. Decided to take some time off, try to focus on other things, try to get my mind off before I really thought of going into it again.
yeah. And I mean, it's also that you graduated in 2023, right?
22, yeah.
Okay, 22. So now, like, you're 2 years in with your whole GRE journey, and I can understand like what could possibly go in your mind at that time. Like, it's either like, oh, let it be, leave all of this. I'm just gonna focus on work now and deal with this later, or just continue and try to make the best of it. But I see around 5 months later, you again went back during July 2024. You tried again. Anything that happened at that moment that made you feel a little better?
Right. So I think so the fundamental, and again, the biggest enabler, the biggest motivator, aside from the fact that I had really supportive friends, really supportive mentors who really saw me through it all, through the ups, through the downs, through every breakdown. I think having those support systems were a big enabler. And I mean, I of course also had a friend parallelly who, in fact, was giving the GMAT, and he had almost the identical journey as mine. He gave the GMAT 5 times, and it was only in his fifth attempt that he worked. So we had a running joke that okay, third is the charm, fourth is the charm, fifth is the charm, and somehow it ended up working out for both of us in the fifth attempt. But no, regardless, I think besides extrinsic motivators, I think the intrinsic goal that I had, that I wanted to go to B school, and perhaps I think if I have to say one of my biggest qualities, it has to be resilience. Something I've written in my B school essay too, but
Yeah.
I think resilience was something that really helped me tide over the odds, and really just motivate myself despite the setbacks, and try to go on again. But looking at the July attempt in particular, I think I decided to hire a personal quant tutor, and I was, of course, supplementing that with all of the other resources that I was referring to, and I'm happy to explore
Mhm.
that later on, specifically as well. But I identified that if I had to improve my score, I had to look at specific things that were going wrong, especially in quant. And that required me to maintain an error log, try to understand which kinds of topics was I struggling with. It was percentiles, it was algebra, it was permutations, combinations, probability, 3D figures, and I think, yeah, like similar areas. These were topics that I really struggled at, and I went with a list to my quant tutor, and we specifically started really solving in for these problem sets, trying to build up my foundation. And I think that really, really helped me a lot. I was pretty
Mhm.
confident going into my fourth attempt. In fact, I was also scoring great at mocks at that time. Finally, I was, and of course, we'll also touch upon the mocks bit as well. But I was doing really well at mocks. But I think during the test day, um, I think what went wrong with the fourth attempt in particular was that, and not a lot of people talk about this, is that you just blanked. I blanked out during the exam center. I internally put so much pressure on myself, a lot of burden on my head, that I have to get it right this time. Because in my head, I was like, this, it has to be the final attempt. I am not going to give this exam ever again. And yeah, all of those, all of those
And you
variables.
said,
In,
oh my God, I'm done feeling.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I just wanted to kill myself at that point. But
Gosh.
um, no, yeah, I blanked out in the test. I had an anxiety attack and I did not know what I was doing. I stared at the screen for a good 10 minutes in each section and I just gave up. Yeah, there was nothing. And perhaps that was the sole reason why that test ended up being one of my worst attempts. In fact, probably I got a 310, which was even lower than my very first attempt, which was, I think, it's 314. So, yeah.
Crazy. So I think, and this is an important point. Like a lot of people who take the test, they're not aware. But as much as you study for the test, you also have to be like mentally ready. So that's why they say before your test, don't study anymore. Just relax, do something you enjoy, sleep nicely, get up, and with no stress. So I think that's what happened with you. You were sort of already prepared, but the mental part just did not work out for you.
Right.
Crazy. So what do you think in your fourth attempt, if you would have been a little bit more mentally ready, you would have gotten a better score? Were you ready with your basics, with your foundation by that time, or you still were lacking somewhere?
No, absolutely. I wouldn't say that it would have gone as good as the fifth attempt, but I was pretty confident of the fact that it would have been incrementally better than what it was earlier in those attempts. I think the only thing that really held me back was the fact that I blanked out because I was, and I think it's also a very important point that you have to really give enough mocks, and I think those mocks are really also reflective of how you're doing in your prep. And this is something that I'd recommend all aspirants. When you start out, give a diagnostic that will set up the base for what do you need to focus on, where exactly do you stand, because that reality check just needs to set in. As long as you're just doing endless practice questions or perhaps you're looking at topics that just simply won't work out. It's a futile exercise. So I think mocks is something that is pretty important. And at that time, I was doing really good at mocks. And it was consistent. It was 5 to 6 mocks, and it was across a stable range between a 322 to a 330. So I was pretty
Mhm.
confident. But yeah, had I not blanked out, I do feel I
You
would
might
have done better.
have gotten it. So then, what exactly then did you start working on for your fifth attempt? I mean, of course, you were starting to get mentally prepared for it. I'm sure, since you were like, I don't want to take this anymore. But what was different in your prep like approach?
Right. So I think at that point of time, I was I was a bit conflicted that if I really want to give this exam again, and my friends and family having seen me go through the ordeal that I had over the past 1.5 years at the time, they're like, just don't give it, just quit. It's fine. B school is something, maybe we'll apply for waivers or we'll look at something else. But
Mm,
I knew that I was capable of getting the score, and this was something that I wanted to envision and like really see for myself. And that is perhaps why I decided to just give the exam in once again. But this time, I think it was more about really just tuning in mentally and just making sure that I don't panic at the last moment. And I think a lot of concerted efforts from my end in terms of meditation or other things that I did. Yeah, I think, yeah, diving right back in. So I think one part was really uh, getting myself up mentally, trying to not set myself up with the burdens and expectations that I had internally with myself. I
mm,
would try to go in with the approach that if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And really trying to take that pressure off of myself was something that I think helped incredibly. While I'd admit I still had the nerves on the test day, but I think internally I was still a bit more calm. And during the month between July and Jan, I also figured that I need to do something else apart from GRE in my life. And there was also a time where I took a strategic shift in terms of my career. And I was job hunting. I had gotten
mm,
another job offer, which was something that I was really hoping for. It was a dream firm, really, really good role. And I think that perhaps also gave me this layer of security, a plan B, so to say, something to look forward to if that thing
Correct.
did not work. And I think that helped. But that is just the mental part of it. In terms of what I did in terms of uh, like just prep in particular, is that I focused on drilling down on theory a lot more. And I bought a Magoo subscription. I went over a lot of GregMat, and we'll cover that later on. But essentially, theory was a large aspect of my prep this time around. I took and I broke down my prep in terms of phases. So I gave myself a good 3.5 months, and a month of that was just simply drilling down on theory, making sure that I had everything very
Mhm.
well understood in my head, and um, it was, so to say, and I just did not approach it topic by topic. So if we're talking about triangles, then I broke it down into smaller issue trees, that within triangles there has to be a 30, 60, 91. It has to be a similar triangle. There has to be perhaps like cyclic triangles, and really just going down into a topic, breaking it down into very smaller subtopics, so much so that I had a very long breadth of the kind of topics that were there. And I made sure that I understood it so well that I could explain it to a 5-year-old kid, or just anyone who might come. But that was theory. Then the second month was really solving questions. And this was also split across resources, but my primary aim here was to solve these questions across these topics and try to get a very high level accuracy, roughly about like more than 90%. And predominantly, this was for quant. Verbal was something that I did very passively, since I was always confident in my abilities. And how I broke it down was that during the morning I used to do quant, and like 1.5, 2 hours at night was when I did verbal. And we'll cover that in more detail. But yeah, second month was essentially just increasing my accuracy and making sure that I was aligned with all of the topics, especially the ones where I struggled with. And finally, the third month was giving mocks and also doing time practice questions. A lot of focus on time efficiency, time management, trying to see that I'm able to solve them in a
Right.
specified time frame. And yeah, just in the weeks leading up to the test, few more mocks, and trying to maintain a clear head. But I think that is fundamentally what worked out for me in my final attempt.
Mhm. That part where you said if if I saw like any question and like for the answer, like I could explain it to a 5-year-old. I think that's so important. It just shows that you know every single thing you've learned. And a lot of people, what they do is they think they've learned the basics, but then they end up guessing. And when they genuinely have to explain the answer to someone, they blank out and they are not sure what's the difference between this option and that option. So the fact that you managed to cover your basics, I think, was significantly improved your score. But that's awesome. Okay, so I'm just gonna see. So for verbal, as far as I know, vocabulary questions usually are the most concerning bit, like for a lot of students. But you said that verbal was not that hard for you. So what exactly was your technique to master it? Were you just generally really good at it since beginning, or there was some approach that you
No,
focused on?
absolutely. And while it did come a bit more naturally to me, which might not be the case for others, I think fundamentally having a good oratory ability, or just having a good grasp of the language, does not always linearly translate to you being good at a standardized test format or verbal, be it GRE or the GMAT.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of vocabulary, I think a lot of people discount it, but this was something that I focused. Like a large part of my focus was towards building a really good foundation of vocab, and this was across I think the 1.5 year time span that I had. So I did I think I did roughly about 700 words from Magoosh, which was the basic and advanced set. I did the flashcards. I used to every time before going to bed, I used to revise those flashcards and try to see that I remembered each and every meaning of the word. So 700 words from Magoosh, Greg Matt has his own vocab list. He has about 36 groups and 30 words in each group. So that was another 1100 words. So that was about 1800. Then there was another word list from Barron's, 330 frequency words. So that was 2100. And then there's another YouTuber called Tested Tutor. He had his own list. That was about, I think, 900 more. So all in all, I think I had done about 3000 words at that point. And
Crazy.
yeah, and of course there was a huge overlap in those words, so I'd say like a moderated amount would be 21 2200. But no, I think having that good foundation in terms of vocab does help you, but you can do with 8 to 900 words, or just do the Gregmat vocab mountain. I think that's one of the best resources you can get, and probably a lot of the words that are there will have probably a higher probability of ending up in the exam. But the thing is that vocabulary itself will only take you so far. That might take you to a 157, 158, but it's really you internalizing, and this is more relevant for text correction and sentence equivalence in particular. You have to understand how the sentence is structured, and particularly before the blank, if you're talking about line 1 and line 2, is it a opposing idea, or is it a supporting idea, and really just trying to understand, break down the sentence, understand what each line means, if it has a callback to the line before, or what is it really referring to. And Gregman talks about this a lot. He has detailed strategies in terms of really breaking down text correction questions, be it the math strategy or yeah, more that he has over there. But fundamentally, internalizing and understanding a question at its core, be it a paragraph in text correction or sentence equivalence, is something that you have to internalize, you have to master. And that is, of course, supplemented by the vocab knowledge you have. But vocab alone will never really set yourself up for great success at verbal. It's constant practice, doing the right questions, approaching the right, um, just the right resources. A lot of people try to look at other resources. They look at Manhattan. They might look at a Kaplan or a Veritas. That is counterintuitive. And perhaps my biggest advice to anyone doing verbal would be always stick to official resources. There is nothing on the market that can mimic how ETS frames its questions, and the way they're structured. So even though the question sets might be limited with respect to the two volumes, the verbal edition and the official ETS book, but what you can refer to is the ETS big book. This was a book that was established, I think, when there was an even older GRE format, and it contains 7 tests and I mean, of course, verbal questions for each. So I think the big book is a great resource, and that combined with normal ETS questions is something you should definitely look at. But that's text completion and sentence equivalence. About reading comprehension, I think this was the part where I struggled the most, because I think I always used to lose a point here or there, primarily in reading comprehension. And I think the only way to get better at is really just reading. Like, read a lot more novels. Do maybe even once you've, and this is also one thing where you can refer to other resources, primarily because it's not too bad leaning into other resources, since it's fundamentally it's just reading at the end of the day. So in addition to ETS, you can refer to, of course, Big Book. You can refer to Manhattan. You can also look at GMAT questions, although GMAT RC questions are significantly easier than what GRE has in hand. But it's about developing that habit of reading, and also trying to understand the question types. So is it an inference-based question? Is it a location-based question? You have to understand which question formats are the ones which are troubling you. Which one is it that you have to really improve and work upon? And also, I think timing is also fundamental importance in RC. Some people take really long. Some people don't take enough time at all. So I think it's incredibly personal. But just read a lot, practice a lot of RCs, and yeah, just be strategic with it, is something that I recommend. But overarchingly, be it.
The GRE, if the GRE RC is more difficult than the GMAT, I just wonder how that is, because I find the GMAT RC like already difficult as is. So, like, what do you mean by more difficult? Like, are the passages more comprehensive? Like, they're more complex, or?
Right. So, in my experience, I think in terms of how the questions are framed, what they ask, and the nuance that the passage dives into, I'd say that GRE is a bit more complex. It's a bit more trickier. ETS does try to set in traps, even in terms of the answer choices that you'll find in. You'll find
Mhm.
that two or three options, you might be able to eliminate like 3 out of 5, but two of them will be incredibly similar. And it's just really distinguishing between the trap answer and the actual legit answer is,
I see.
I think, what is not there in GMAT, where it's sufficiently, I'd say, clear, a bit more transparent, something you can easily maneuver over.
I see. Okay, that's great. One thing I did want to ask this in the beginning was, before you started all of your prep, did you take a mock test?
I
Just
did.
okay.
No, in fact, no, I probably didn't. No, 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 I did not. Yeah, in my first attempt, I did not. It was only in my second attempt where I took a diagnostic.
Oh, interesting. So you didn't even take one diagnostic before your first attempt. That just shows how unprepared you were.
Right.
Crazy. But in terms of your mock tests, like, what was your process like? I mean, so you said you took one in your second, then I'm sure you took a few more in your third. But sorry, and this is something I'm not too aware of. In GMAT, you have like certain number of mock tests that you like from the official GMAT source, but how many do you have in ETS?
Right. So ETS gives you two power prep tests, which are
Mhm.
free. And I think there are also three paid power prep plus tests, which you can buy. And yeah, I think with the only differentiation between the power prep and power prep plus is that in power prep, they don't grade your essays, but in power prep plus, they do, in fact, grade your essays. I think it's probably AI that does it for you. But yeah, I'd say in terms of strategy for mocks, I'd say save the ETS mocks. They are the best thing that you can find. The most correct indicator of how you will actually do on exam day. Um,
Mhm.
a bit more specific insight is that Power Prep 1 is significantly easier and easier than what you'll find on the exam day. So there have been times where people will find that their scores are a bit more inflated, primarily because of how Power Prep 1 is structured. But I think Power Prep 2 in particular, and all three of the paid Power Prep tests, they are gold, probably the most perfect indicators of how you'll do on the test day. And
For sure.
while in terms of other resources that I referred to, I think there are several mocks that you can give in. Manhattan has about 6, so you can buy that pack. I did that. Veritas has, I think, one free mock. I referred to that. Kaplan has their own 5 mocks, I think, that they give you with their paid
Mhm.
subscription. That came in with one of the centers I had enrolled at. So I gave those as well. And yeah, I think I have done almost every mock there is on the market. But no,
Did you
I'd
say
say
the ETS ones for the last attempt, or by last attempt you did not even have one mock left?
right. Oh, and yeah, I think this is also a big learning that in my second and third attempt, I had exhausted all of the mocks that I had. So I did like
Mhm.
4 to 5 mocks in each of those attempts. And the problem with the following attempt was that I did not have original questions to refer to anymore because, of course, when you're reattempting a mock, there is always a semblance or there is a certain muscle memory that kicks in that you know this question.
Right.
So that will never again really be a correct indicator of how you'll actually do. But
Right.
I think in my fourth attempt, I was given the Manhattan access, and that time I had not done Manhattan tests. And
Mhm.
something good that I did incidentally, I think I accidentally, was that I had not purchased the Power Prep Plus tests. And in my fifth attempt, I bought two Power Prep Plus tests and I did those before my exam in addition to Manhattan mocks.
That's
And I
nice.
think that really helped in. But fundamental advice to anyone who wants to approach mocks, I'd say keep on doing, don't do them in too rapid succession. After each mock, really understand what went wrong, analyze. If you've done a wrong question in quant, then look at why was that question wrong. Did you understand the theory? Was it something that perhaps you couldn't solve it properly? Was it a silly mistake? And again, then even break that down further. Then if it's a theory problem, then you have to really go and look into that topic, and
Mm,
then maybe do a question bank for that specific topic, drill down upon, mitigate that instantly.
mhm.
And I mean, of course, if it's a silly error, then you just have to be a bit more careful and
Correct.
understand which question types are taking the most time out. Mocks are perhaps the best thing that you can do, and analyzing them is of fundamental importance. So, do I'd say 2 mocks a week. Take some time out, understand what went wrong, what did you do actually do right, and maybe you could do like 3 to 4 third-party mocks, and do at least 2 to 3 ETS mocks. So you could do the 2 free
Mm,
Power Prep, and maybe just buy 1 Power Prep Plus, and ideally do these closer to your exam date so that you actually have a correct indicator of how you'll do. And do not give a mock one day before the exam, because
yeah.
coincidentally you do bad in the mock.
You
You'll just,
ruin
yeah,
everything
you
in their
get
head. No,
yeah,
for
so you,
sure. But with mocks, it's not just about, of course, knowing your score. That's the major reason why people take it. Like how it's just a predicament of what you're gonna score in the actual test. But also, like the other factor is like managing your time and making sure that you solve everything on time and you're not running short on time, or or you're not left with too much time, because that might also be because you're just guessing things or not solving things correctly. So how was your time management like? What was it, smooth sailing, or were you struggling in a certain section? What was it like?
right. So I think in the initial attempts, I never really, for the first 3 attempts, I never did timed questions, which was a bad thing to do,
Mm,
because I was always at a point of time in the exam where inevitably I was crunched for time, especially when it came to quant, and I was just leaving questions. This was something that I improved in my fourth and fifth attempt. I made a concerted effort to do timed practice tests even before the mocks, to try to really yeah, just minimize the time I'm taking for question types. And I think the thing with time management is that someone might tell you that, okay, do time practice, but that doesn't always help. And that's why I'll always come back to the fact that test prep is extremely personal. While you may be able to increase your yield or efficiency by 20-25%, at the end of the
right.
day, you will find yourself at the exam where a question or two will throw you off, and you will find yourself struggling for time. So at that point of time, you have to be strategic with the types of questions you're doing. A lot of people just try to, they get obsessed with a question, especially with quant, and then you end up spending 5 minutes in a question, and then it is a time section, and you have, let's say, 8 other questions to do. And if you've taken 5 minutes for one question, then essentially you will find yourself crunching for time for others. So if you have encountered a question which you can't seem to solve in less than like 40 seconds, or even figure out the approach, it's better to skip it. And this is something that Ragman talks about a lot, and I think that really helped me significantly. Be strategic with the kind of questions you do. Skip questions where you feel that you're not able to get it. Focus on getting everything that you know you're going to get right first. And with the time remaining is what you'd like to ideally ration and try to solve the other questions, because it's just trying to optimize yourself and
Right.
optimize your skill at the end of the day. It's not like GMAT where it's question adaptive. It is a section adaptive test. You can
Mm,
shift between questions, and subsequently, I think, yeah, just of course, work on time management, work on making sure that you're able to maximize it as much as possible. But the fact, the time where you feel that you've hit a ceiling, you have to understand that test strategy is also equally important. So skip questions,
right.
be strategic in what you do, and I think that should really be it.
Okay. I feel like I've asked most of the questions I wanted to ask you, but if I missed out on anything, do
Um,
let us know. Like,
right, resources. I think shall be resources is
oh
something.
yes, you did touch upon a bit of them, and maybe that's why I didn't go too deep into it. But what were the ones that actually worked out for you?
Right. And I'll try to structure this. So there are a few like requisites that you have to follow, and
Mhm.
that the base of it is ETS, the ETS guide to GRE, the ETS quant review, the ETS literature review. Diving into quant in particular, I think the Manhattan 5 Pound book is something which is incredible. The fact that it breaks down each of the topics into subtopics and really helps you uh, just deep dive into them, solve a variety of questions of across difficulty ranges. That's really good. In addition, I think a Greg Math subscription will do you wonders. It's the cheapest resource out there, and it's like $7. But how his approach to teaching, the kind of curriculum he has, the kinds of resources he provides, be it the vocab mountain, be it the quizzes, be it the mocks he has in there as well. I think Ragmat is the best thing you can do. You can follow any of his plans, the 1 month plan, the 2 month plan. I think that's great. Magoosh is good. It's really good for timed practice if you want to get access to a good question bank, particularly for quant, even for verbal, so to say, at least for RCSO. I think Magoosh is definitely a good resource. And in addition, I mean, some people have great things to say about TTP and TTP's target test prep. So, target test prep, I think I did look into their theory, but it's again a very lengthy course, something that I didn't really pursue. But I've heard good reviews about it. But yeah, I'd say ETS, Manhattan 5 Pound, the Magoosh subscription, and yeah, I mean, if you want to do mocks, you can always refer to Kaplan or Manhattan for those as well. But I think these are a few non-negotiables, and of course, the big book as well. Big book for quant and for verbal both. Specifically, when you're looking at big book, the best way you can strategize is that look at questions. At the end of the each section, you have the answer key, and within the answer key, there is a percentage, which is the percentage of people that got that question right. So ideally, you'd want to solve for questions which have a below 50% accuracy. And if you just quickly search Big Book Reddit on GRE, you'll find a thread where someone has mentioned exact question numbers and question types where of the Big Book, and you can just easily refer to that thread, and I think that'll help you manifold. But I think broadly these should be the top resources that I'd recommend to someone.
Mhm. Awesome. Okay. Well, I mean, then I guess that will cover now literally your prep journey from A to Z. But is there any advice that you have, for GRE students who are stuck in the cycle of multiple attempts?
Right. So I'd say don't give up is the number one thing. I
Of
think
course.
a little bit of grit and resilience goes a long way. I never thought that I'd be able to do this, and in fact, this was probably the toughest thing I've done in my academic life. Never thought that I'd be able to cross this, but I was able to, and just self belief. Have a good set of people around you who support you through it, and start early. Because I started early, I'm at a point of time where it's perfectly in sync with my B school application. So, and
Right.
apart from that, I think just be strategic with your prep. Don't try to commit the same mistakes that I did. Don't just go in on someone's recommendation or just join in a local um, tutoring center. I think there are a lot of free and affordable resources that are out there, such as GregMat, such as Magoosh, and really be strategic. Maintain an error log when you're doing quant or verbal. Understand the do time practice, understand the kind of time that you're giving into each question, understand what exactly is going wrong, drill down on those topics, make sure that you have a really strong theoretical base. Do not discount vocabulary, build a good base, ensure that you're getting in enough practice, make sure you're putting the hours in, don't get complacent with it, don't uh, just make sure that there's not enough time gaps between the preps. So be consistent. A good 3.5, 4, maybe 5 months should be good enough. And finally, be ready for reattempts. There
Mm,
might not be the case that you'd, and I'm rooting for everyone over here, and I hope that everyone gets it in their first attempt. But in case you don't, just set those expectations in that you have to go in for reattempt, and when you do, be strategic, analyze what went wrong. GRE itself does give you a diagnostic in terms of the questions you got right, got wrong, what topics were they from, the kind of time that you took in. So understand the diagnostic, get help if you need. If you're someone who is as horrible as me at quant, get a personal tutor. I think that will help you wonders. Just go in there with a specific ask, with specific things in mind, and the only thing that can help you there is introspection, is by analyzing what is really going wrong. So do all of those things, and I think that should really help you ace your test prep journey. And of course, reach out to others who have done it, and I think that should really be it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, hearing your story is definitely inspiring. It actually reminds me of this movie I watched recently. I don't know if you've seen it, 12th Fail, where this
That's right.
boy,
Yeah.
yeah, he attempts the UPSC exam like 5 times, and fifth time is the last time. And somehow, with resilience and grit, he managed to actually get through. And I mean, it's the same case for you. I'm really happy for you. I'm happy that you don't have to take the test again, and like this is finally your final attempt. But I wish you all the best, especially for your business school journey now, and I hope that it works out the best for you. So thank you so much, Vikram, for taking out your time and doing this. And guys, if you want, you can always reach out to Vikram. Vikram apparently is also a content creator on LinkedIn, so feel free to follow him there and ask your questions if you have any. And Vikram, you have your GMAT Club ID as well, right? So people can
Right.
ping you there. So we will add that all in the description down below. But thank you guys so much. Again, like this video, subscribe to our channel. We are definitely going to have more of these videos coming soon. So stay tuned. But yeah, thank you so much, Vikram. Have a good night.
Thanks, Shelby. Thanks, everyone.